De facto Governor Whitmer, I'm not judging you. I am prosecuting you for the United States on 4/15/2020. Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Ritlewski, U.S. Army veteran. Social Security number 374-506794. Yes, that's my property. Keep your hands off it. And hey, everyone, it's Rob Ryder. I had sent the following to the Department of the Army, the Department of Defense, to my congressman, to a number of newspapers as letters to the editor and so forth. And I'm going to do a video on it. And I'm hoping that somebody will find a way to get this to Donald John Trump. I pray it happens. Lord, let it happen. Somebody get this to Donald John Trump, please. He needs to know that all the governors are de facto. They haven't taken a proper oath of office. And I'll prove it to you. But basically, let me do my statement first. So I, Robert Allen Ritlewski, official witness of the United States, declare Gretchen Esther Whitmer did not comply with federal law 4 U.S.C. 101, oath of members of the legislature and officer, and file the law's mandated oath of office. The document she filed with the Michigan Department of State under the pseudonym Gretchen Whitmer is a counterfeit oath of office of an imposter that simulates a legal process in offense of the Michigan Penal Code, specifically MCL 750.217C, and Federal Law 18 U.S.C. 1001. Alleged state legislators committed the same torturous acts. The laws of the United States and Michigan require 2 separate oaths of office be executed for every state office, and only a person's full legal name can be used as identification for official purposes. Neither Gretchen Esther Whitmer nor any alleged member of the state's legislature has properly filed either or both oaths. These impostors have conspired to commit numerous acts of terrorism, high crimes, and misdemeanors by falsely claiming authority to declare Michigan under a state of emergency, arrest Michigan residents of their liberty, and obstruct commerce and justice. And hey, because you can only use 175 words, that's as long as I can make it. But now that I've said it, I'm going to expand on this a bit, and I will prove all of these points to you. And so really, if you have a way to get on this onto Twitter or something and, make it go somewhere, please do. I've sent it to the Department of Defense, the Department of the Army, to my congressman, to the newspapers, doing a video on it. I'm an expert witness. Somebody come take my oath, right? Take my statement. So let me show you why. So anyways, I had done back in, August 2019, I had requested the oath of Gretchen Whitmer for the office of governor of the state of Michigan. That was simple enough to do. I got a reply, right? But, right from the bat, now this is the thing with what I do, right, is all the jots and tittles matter. So I wrote them as Robert Allen Ritlewski, and they answered me as Robert Ritlewski, right? They did not use my full legal name in a legal matter. So this is an illegal document. It's a simulated legal process under color of law. And they called me Mr. Ritlewski, which I have a problem with. I'm not a Mr. Right? I did a video a long time ago about don't let them call you a Mr. But we'll get to that some other time. But today, right, here's the oath of office they sent me, where it said received, filed, Michigan Dept of State. You can only assume it means Department of State because it says DEPT, but, did they run out of space, or what was the reason for not using the whole word? And what particular date it was and the time. And so this is the oath of office that's supposed to be for the governor of the state of Michigan. Right? It means handwritten in with a pen. Got some scribble on there. I guess, it almost looks like her name. And then Gretchen Whitmer's written in down here. Right, now this is the oath. This is supposed to be the official oath of office of the governor of Michigan. And it was done by a notary. And I can tell you that just from having done this before, state of Michigan is not the government. The government is either Michigan or the state of Michigan, depending on how you're referring to it. But And the grammar is wrong. This oath looks like it's the oath that comes out of the Constitution of Michigan of 1963, which itself is federally unconstitutional, but that's for a different day. But in there, they have these particular words. I mean, these are the right words, but where it says Constitution of the state, the C and the S are not capitalized, which changes the meaning of the sentence. And I'd have to leave it to a grammar expert to say exactly what the differences were. Just for me, I can see the difference, say, well, it's not the same, right? The jots and tittles matter, and it's not the same. You're going to have to do this again, if that was all that was wrong. But it isn't, because she didn't use her full legal name. Or her full legal name is Gretchen Esther Whitmer. That's the name on her driver's license. This is not her identification, all right? So this is done under a pseudonym. So it has the wrong words on it, and she didn't use her full legal name. And the person that is supposed to have done this for her is a notary, which a notary cannot do a governor's oath in Michigan. And there's actually a law on that someplace. I did it in a different video. So, this thing is wrong, wrong, wrong. That's no good. But even this doesn't satisfy what the federal government said to do in the first place, which is in Title IV of the United States Code, right? So it's 4 USC, United States Code, Section 101, oath by members of legislatures and officers. And I think everybody should go, print this out, put it in your wallet, and you can just give it to anybody who ever challenges you and say, well, do you have one of these oaths? If they don't, then say you don't have any authority. Stop. But what it says is every member of a state legislature, and every executive or judicial officer of a state shall, before he proceeds to execute the duties of his office, take an oath in the following form, to wit, I state your name, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, period. Even got quotes around it. That's what the federal government is expecting any state officer, executive or judicial, to have executed prior to executing any authority that they believe that their Constitution of the state of Michigan gives them. Well, there isn't anybody that's done this. The legislature hasn't done it. The governor hasn't done it. The judges haven't done it. Your local prosecutor hasn't done it. The county commissioners haven't done it. The freaking township board hasn't done it. Nobody has filed this fucking oath of office. They don't have any authority in the United States. Thank you very much. All right, now I'm a staff sergeant, United States Army. It's my duty to defend the Constitution of the United States, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I need your support. Somebody get this to fucking President-elect Donald John Trump. Because Donald John Trump didn't take oath of office as Donald John Trump. He took it as Donald J. Trump. He's got the same problem. That's why I don't have any authority. As soon as he fixes his, all these other people are screwed, blued, and tattooed. You can call in the Army now, sir. They'll come, right? But you're not the president yet. So anyway, since this is what the woman did, what does that mean under the penal code, right? This is, these are the things they put you in state prison for. We're under 752.17c, legal process, impersonation, false representation, or an action as a public officer or employee, and definitions. We don't need to go past the first section. A person shall not impersonate, falsely represent himself or herself as, or falsely act as, a public officer or public employee, and prepare, issue, serve, execute, or otherwise act to further the operation of any legal process or unauthorized process that affects, purports to affect persons or property. Well, that's what her executive orders are doing. And she's doing them as an impersonator. So she's in violation of the penal code. She could be arrested immediately. Now, what we have in Michigan, we have a Michigan election law. So, all states are going to be different, but you all have the same problem. Just go look at their oath. You can do the same thing. But in Michigan, we have it even a little more detailed. Where in the Michigan election law, there's a section in here about affidavit of identity. And there we go. hang on a second. Okay, so in this law, it says under MCL 168.558, talks about the affidavit of identity, right? Or affidavit of candidacy, in which it says an affidavit of identity, this is number 2, shall contain the candidate's name, address, and ward, precinct, where registered, if qualified to vote, election. Well, that would make sense. Statement that the candidate's a citizen of the United States. Yeah, not a U dot, S dot citizen, a citizen of the United States. There's a difference. Not an American citizen, not a United States citizen, not a U.S. citizen, a citizen of the United States with a lowercase c is different than all the other ones I just mentioned. Required to satisfy the office, sir, the identity of the candidate. Okay? If a candidate is using a name that is not the name that he or she was given at birth, the candidate shall include on the affidavit of identity the candidate's full former name. Okay, so they have to use a name that's on their birth record. Well, that's the same name you need to use on your driver's license as your identification. And that isn't the name that Gretchen Esther Whitmer used because she forgot to put Esther in here, right? She can sign it, she can scribble her name any way she wants to, but wherever it needs to be written in her full legal name, which should have been here after the I, right? It should say I, Gretchen Esther Whitmer. To satisfy this particular law, all right, I, Gretchen Esther Whitmer. She doesn't have one. So, well, there you go, right? She didn't do this. Well, they have another section in here. Just give me a second. I'll go find it. Okay, here we go. And so, peace officers. Duty to institute proceedings. It is hereby made the duty of any police, sheriff, or other peace officer present and having knowledge of any violation of any of the provisions of this act to forthwith institute criminal proceedings for the punishment of such offender. I've tried to do this numerous times, but you know they have this thing locked up pretty good because as a veteran, I don't have an ID card. Although I should have. I'm really still in the military. Every veteran is still in the military. They didn't let anybody out ever. And this is why there's $1 trillion sitting in the military retirement fund, surplus of what's necessary to pay any retirement that's due. Right? Because they never let you out, and they're paying your retirement, putting this fund and paying themselves $100 billion a year to $100 billion a year to manage the fund. That's another story. But, you know, if anybody knows who a peace officer is, because I've not been able to find one, well, they should go arrest Gretchen Esther Whitmer for impersonating the governor of Michigan. Now, I wanted to show, before we move on, I got a few more things to show you, and then we'll be done with this video. But this just doesn't apply to the governor, right? It applies to the state's treasurer, the state's secretary of state, the state's attorney general. I say it applies to all the judges, all the legislature, the county commissioners, the township supervisors, the township board. I mean, all those people. You know, it applies to all of them. They don't have to do this. Well, so does Donald John Trump. He needs to do this. The reason is, if we go look at his oath of office, well, yeah, let's just do this first. Let's go look at the Constitution, Article 6, where it says in the Constitution, the senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office of public trust under the United States. All right, there's two things about it. It has to support the Constitution, and there's no religious test. Let's start with the religious test. If we go and look at what the This is out of the congressional record for January 17th, 2019, which really isn't the right day for them to be doing this, but this is the day that they did what we're going to talk about was done. It should have been done, I think, on the first Tuesday after the election. But, yeah, congressional record for the House, January 17th, 2019. You get to the end of the day, they call an adjournment. And after they've adjourned for the day and say, we're going to get back together tomorrow, right, they're going to go slide in this document that says oath of office, members, resident, commissioners, and delegates. The oath of office required by the 6th article of the Constitution of the United States and as provided by the Section 2 of the Act of May 13th, 1884, 23 Stat 22, to be administered to members, resident, commissioners, and delegates of the House of Representatives, the text of which is carried as 5 United States Code 3331, and then it gives this here, right, this oath, which and it's got a place to put it in there. You know, I state your name. So this is where you would put your full legal name. That's your identification. But as you can see, it says, so help me God, as part of the oath. Well, that's a religious test, so this oath is unconstitutional. I don't see how you could argue that. Does anybody argue with me that that would make it unconstitutional? Right, so help me God. Is that a religious test? It has to be. Right, so that in itself made it unconstitutional. But when you read this gibberish up here that this is going to satisfy the 6th article, right? Well, it can't because we just said that it's got a religious test, so it didn't satisfy. And then they talk about this Act of May 13th, 1884. Well, that isn't when the 23rd Statute at Large book was created, right? The 23 Stat 22 is Statutes at Large Session 23, I think it is, right? So that would have been far earlier. It was like the 1830s or something like that. So they've intentionally put errors in this. I mean, if we're not paying attention to the errors, which we should be, the jots and tittles, you could say everything they did is fine. But if you're going to actually do it by the book, it hasn't been done by the book. Further, what they use for the AB is now listed in the next couple pages. And you'll start to see that people were using a middle initial and, they only have 2 names. Most people in the United States, we get a given name, which has 2 parts, or you could call it first and middle. I wouldn't do that ever again. Never have a middle initial. Never have a middle name. You have a given name. My given name's Robert Allen. Well, there's nobody using their, full legal name. We got people using initials. We actually have people putting a nickname in the middle of their frickin' name. This is what is on their oath of office. Eric A. Rick Crawford is in whatever document this guy supposedly filed to satisfy this requirement as the AB. So all these people just took a fictitious oath of office. They took an unconstitutional oath of office, and they did it under a pseudonym, and that makes them an enemy of the United States. Actually makes them a spy because they hid their identity. Well, after they did all this and hid their identity and said that we're going to take this oath, then they go down and say, well, now that we've done that, we're going to go take another oath to get classified information. So now they're going to give them, all these people are going to give themselves a security clearance to look at, secrets. So now they have all the state secrets. All these people are enemies of the United States, and now they have access to all the secrets. There's something wrong with that. And, really they don't lie that they didn't. They may have been members elect, but they're not members because they haven't finished the process. So really what that makes them is an obstructor of an office because they're standing in the doorway, but they haven't entered. And so what they're doing is they're just assuming power. And they make it as clear as this, right? Because here's Justin Amish, which he's supposed to be my congressman. He has a middle name. It's a middle initial A, although I haven't found what it is, but I have found where he identifies himself as Justin A. Amish. So he's hiding his full legal name. But if you look on here, it says they assumed office. Well, what does it mean to assume? to make what is fictitious, to pretend to possess, to take an appearance, as to assume a garb of humility. All right, this is Webster's dictionary. I'm not going to argue with Neil or Noah. Noah Webster, that's what he said. In law, to take upon oneself an obligation or to take a promise, as to assume upon himself a promise to pay. But Justin Amish can't do anything because that's not his legal name. He's pretending to take on these things. So, well, there you are, right? It's they don't have a proper oath of office. Now I got to go look at the president real quick because remember, this Article 6. What did it say? Who needs to do this? Well, the senators, representatives, members of several state legislatures, all the executive, judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states. Okay, well, the president is an executive officer, and the commander-in-chief is an executive officer, and so they would both have to have done that. Well, neither has, and or none of them have. And if we go look at the second article, somebody got mad at me for pointing this stuff out about the president, and I don't take any pleasure in it. I want him to do it right and be the president, because an enlisted man's oath is to the president of the United States, and right now the office is vacant, and so technically we can't follow him because he's not the president. Yeah, Section 2. Where the heck is it? All right, sorry about that. It says right here, before he enters in the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I, now there isn't any state your name, right? Just I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will do so to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. But he didn't say he would support it, which is what the 6th article demands. You must support the Constitution. And this was all done on purpose, right? This is how you can tell if it's been done right or not. Here, he doesn't put his name in. It's just I, right? Not I, Donald John Trump, just I. But in this other oath he would have to take, it would be I, Donald John Trump. Now, this 4 U.S.C. 101, this is the oldest law in the United States. It was actually passed as 1 Stat 23, which is the first statutes at large. So this is the first law passed by the first Congress after the ratification of the Constitution. George Washington, President. John Adams, Vice President. Frederick Augustus Muhlenberg, Speaker of the House. Those 3 people are the ones that passed it. Just 3 people. An act to regulate the time and manner of administering certain oaths. Being enacted by and then we read what it is, right? IAB. Support the Constitution of the United States. It's been in there since June 1st, 1789. So I don't know if it's ever been done right, but, you can't say that it's not in the book. And I'm all about the book, brother. If we're going to do this, let's do it by the book. Right? You want to take me to court and charge me for something, I'm going to make sure you're doing it by the book. If you don't have an oath of office, your ass can't take me to court. If you don't have an oath of office, you can't tell me I can't do anything. That's my point. Right? That old Gretchen, de facto Governor Whitmer, you don't have any authority, and you need to stop immediately, regroup. Donald John Trump needs to get his act together and do the proper oaths of office, get them filed, and now he will be the commander-in-chief, and none of these other people have any oath of office. They don't have any authority. It's like all the offices have been vacated, and they have been, and it goes all the way down to your township hall. There really isn't anybody holding a proper office. It's all a big-ass scheme. And the way they maintain this bullshit is they make sure that there's nobody that has any authority under the under the Constitution. And the way to do that is make sure they don't take the proper oath to have the authority under the Constitution, because if they took the proper oath, the Constitution gives them the authority. Right? So Donald John Trump really needs to do this. He needs to take proper oath of office. And then he needs to go look at whatever Lincoln did, where he said the way that you tell if all the states are at peace with the federal government is, did they all send qualified representatives to Washington? And no senator, no congressman, no state senator, no state representative, none of these people have an oath of office. So what Trump is supposed to do is send them all back home and say, come back with your paperwork, and we'll start all over. And that's how you restart that's how he would restart the civil government. And I guess where we go, everyone needs to know right now we are under the Lieber Code. Right? So let's just take a real quick look at that, just so you can say that you've seen it, that I've shown it to you. So hang on a second. So here we are with another one of Lincoln's documents, instructions for the government of armies of the United States in the field. And it's General Orders number 100, known as the Lieber Code. And it says in the second article of this Lieber Code that martial law does not cease during the hostile occupation except by special proclamation ordered by the Commander-in-Chief or by special mention in a treaty of peace concluding the war. When the occupation of peace territory continues beyond the occupation of a place or territory beyond the conclusion of peace as one of the conditions of the same. Da, 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 da. Well, there never was a peace treaty in the Civil War. Right? There was an armistice. And so we've been under a domestic war ever since. They may not have been shooting at each other, but go read what an armistice is. It's not a peace treaty. And Lincoln declared martial law in 1861. Was ratified by the Congress in 1863, but it's never been rescinded. And so it still goes on. And he did it in the District of Columbia, right, which is over. That's the nation's capital, and so it's over the nation, not just over the state. So any place in your state where you see a flag, that's the territory of the United States, of the nation, not of the state. So when you go into a courthouse, the American flag, that's an American. See, we're not under a constitutional government. We have been for a long, long time. I just showed you, none of these people have an oath of office. So what is it they're doing? They're just pretending during this military occupation that's been going on since the Civil War. They cut some kind of deal back in the day. And they, effectively changed the form of the government, which, according to the Declaration of Independence, they could do. But it's what's happened, right? We're not working under a constitutional form of government because none of these people have filed a fucking oath of office. Now it says in Article 6, all civil and penal law shall continue to take the usual course in the enemy's place and territories under martial law, unless interrupted or stopped by order of occupying military power, but all the functions of the hostile government, legislature, executive, or administrative, whether of a general, provincial, or local character, cease under martial law, which means Whitmer can't do anything. She doesn't have any authority. We're under martial law. She don't have any authority because of Article 6 of the Lieber Code. And so the people in charge right now is the Army. Right? We're under military rule, and the Army needs to come in here and clean the house out. And that would start with getting Donald John Trump to become the Commander-in-Chief under the name Donald John Trump. So that's kind of where we're at today, right? I want to show these. So here's some of these executive orders that de facto Governor Whitmer filed or put in, right? Governor Gretchen Whitmer. All right. Well, none of these are signed, right? So I need to I'm going to have to do a Freedom of Information Act and ask for one of these and see if it gets, right, under my hand and seal of the state of Michigan. Well, I want to see that hand and seal, right? Because this is just words on paper. She has deniability of this because it doesn't have her name on it, right? It's just words on paper that somebody's pretending that she did. Because there's, supposed to have the Great Seal on it. Anyway, folks, that's how it is in America. So please, if you would, make this go viral. And I'm going to leave it at that. Y'all have a great day now. Hey, I thought I was done. I got one more thing to show you. Army Regulation 840-10. Flags, guidons, streamers. Right? People will tell you that the gold fringe flag means military or means maritime law. It doesn't. That gold fringe flag is an Army flag. It's carried by the cavalry. Carried by lots, you find it in military installations all over. And, well, let's just look at where that comes from, because everything in the military is by regulation. And a regulation is an order. Right? This isn't playtime. This isn't civilian world. No, this is what's in the book. We're going to do it by the book. When it comes down to how it will be done, when push comes to shove, it'll be done by the book. If it isn't done by the book, it'll be judged by the book. And so you just saw recently where they released the commander, the captain of an aircraft carrier, right, for failing to follow the chain of command. So they say, right? And then soon after, the acting secretary of the Navy. Is that who it was? Was the acting secretary? Or assistant? I think it was the acting secretary of the Navy. Sir, forgive me. I should go back and look. He fell on his sword because of all the shit that happened. Well, so did the commander. So did the captain. I mean, the captain has to know if you're going to send this 22 people, it's going to get out. So he did it on purpose. Now, why he did it on purpose, he knows. And someday maybe we'll know. But he did it on purpose, right? And so he had to be relieved because he didn't follow chain of command. But that's how it is in the military. It don't matter how big you are, they will bring you down immediately. And so we should all be doing everything by the regulation, because right now the military is in charge. So, enough on that. But it says unauthorized use of official flags, guidons, and streamers. There is no law that permits the sale, loan, or donation of flags, guidons, streamers to individuals or organizations not in military service, except as 1 and 2 below: educational institutions and retired general officers. So when you see an American flag in front of a post office, that post office is in military service. Right? Because some flags fly outside and some flags fly inside. The ones with the gold fringe, they're for indoor use. Or in a parade, right? But the private use and display, the private unofficial use and display of positional colors, distinguishing flags, organizational colors, or guidons is prohibited. Now, I didn't say the flag of our nation, which, I'm sure that was already covered, but you can't use a flag. Right? Who gets to use flags? This will tell you who can have one. All right. So I don't want to go through this whole thing because I just want to get to the part that was of most interest today. That the flag of the United States is the symbol of our nation, the Union, white stars, and field of blue. Now, if you look at Whitmer talking on TV, you can see a United States flag behind her with gold fringe on it. She's under the jurisdiction of the United States. She can't deny it. The fucking flag's right behind her. Every courtroom has one. Well, that's covered down here. Where is that? That's in Chapter 2, Flag of the United States, where it talks about the time and occasion of display, the sizes, the flag of the United States. That's what we're talking about. Where did it talk here? So what's a Union Jack? Union Jack consists of blue base. Now let's go back to ensign. 2'4" by 4'6" of approved material. The ensign will be displayed on vessels when required to indicate nationality. If you look on a Navy ship, it doesn't have a gold fringe flag. It's got a freaking American flag like you'd see outside. Right? And they got a particular size. That's the one they get to use. But, it was determined by Army regulation. National flags listed below are for indoor use. Right? For the purpose of the flag, the United States will be rayon banner, trimmed on 3 sides with 2.5-inch wide trim. Somebody should take a tape measure sometime, see how long it is inside there. And then it gives these two different sizes and who gets to use them, and it goes to authorized for indoor display. The flag of the United States is authorized for indoor display for each office, headquarters, or organization authorized the positional color, distinguishing flag, or organizational color. Organization of battalion size or larger, temporary, permanent, not otherwise authorized flag of the United States. Military offices not otherwise authorized an indoor flag of the United States for the purpose of administering oaths of office. Military courtroom. U.S. Army, element, joint command, military groups and missions. One flag is authorized for any one headquarter operating in dual capacity. Subordinate element, see what it is, right? So it says here, military courtroom. Did you see anywhere in here where it said a civilian courtroom could have a gold fringe flag? Or any flag. Doesn't matter if it has gold fringe or not. The private use is, it's covered under a different section. Well, where did it say here? It can also be, when displayed on a wall, stage, it will be placed above, behind speaker stand, in an auditorium, meeting hall, or chapel, when the United States flag is displayed from staff. Right? So when you go into a church and you see a gold fringe flag, to the Army, it's a chapel. Churches with gold fringe flags have some kind of authority in the military government, and I don't think the pastors know that. Right? That this is all part of something that happened back in World War I, where these associations that the churches created as, basically public charities were given a commission by the Department of War during World War I, which has never ended because there's never been a peace treaty. They pretended one time, but it never got ratified. Right? So all there's ever been since World War I is an armistice. There's one other little detail I wanted to tell you. Then I will be done. But let me find it since we're here. Hang on. Okay, so time and occasion display. The flag of the United States will be displayed outdoors at all Army installations. Did you know, if you're in the military, you know, right, that the military has its own postal system. And in that postal system, in the one for the Army, it considers every state to be an installation. Right? The whole state's an installation. So, right, the flag of the United States will be displayed outdoors at all Army installations. I'm sure if you went down to the Capitol of the state of Michigan, you'd see a United States flag flying. Only one flag of the United States will be flown at one time at any continental United States Army installation, except as authorized by commanding general of major Army commands. Major command may delegate this authority to major subordinate commands, installations, in which have other federal agencies as tenants may permit those federal agencies to display U.S. flags in the front of their facility. But they're all doing it under the authority of the military. So I say when you go to a post office and see a flag, that's really the military post office. And because of that, well, as you'll see in my next video, I'm going to be trying to take this information now and file a claim using a SF-95 form and 32 CFR Code of Federal Regulations, Part 536, about claims against the United States, and file a claim against the United States saying that it's violated, I believe it's the 4th article of the Constitution, because Michigan has been denied a Republican form of government. Because the person pretending to be the governor hasn't taken a proper oath of office. In fact, I wrote something up and sent it haphazardly, and I'm going to show you that, and then I will be done. And then, okay, in my last video, I was showing that in 32 CFR, which is Code of Federal Regulations, right? Title 32 CFR, Part 536, claims against the United States. This talks about if you have a claim against the United States that in any way includes something to do with the Department of the Army. Right, 536 prescribes policies and procedures to be filed in filing, investigating, processing, administrative settlement of Department of the Army general non-contractual claims. Well, so they're talking about tort claims, right? That if you've been damaged personal injury, property damage, or negligent death, or whatever the proper term is they use, um, or you can file a tort claim. So I was saying in my last video, well, if you're suffering from Agent Orange as a veteran, you should file a tort claim and say that's, bodily injury. Because you don't have to prove fault, you just have to prove the fact, right? That's what a tort claim is. They're strict liability tort claims. All you have to prove is the fact that it happened. Well, all these style of complaints are supposed to go to a particular place, right? The power was given by the Secretary of the Defense to the Secretary of the Army. The Secretary of the Army gave it to the Judge Advocate General, and the Judge Advocate General gave it to the TJAG, or delegated the TJAG, the Judge Advocate General, right? Delegated it to the U.S. Army Claims Service, and it gives this address. The proper mailing address is right here. This commander, U.S. Army Claims Service, Office of the Judge Advocate General, Fort George G. Meade, Maryland. Which, if we take a minute and look, is this place right here. Right? Office of the Staff Judge Advocate, where it has places to get the forms and so forth and so on. So it's okay, well, but they don't have an email address. So that's my next thing to do is get their email address or just send it in the mail. That's what I need to do. But follow the procedure, right? And it says in here one more thing, that information and assistance. So government personnel may not represent any claim or receive any payment or gratuity for services rendered. Okay, so they can't be paid for helping you. Doesn't mean they can't help you. They just can't be paid for it. You can't represent it, and they can't be paid to do it, but doesn't mean they can't help you. They may not appear, or they may not accept any share or interest in a claim or assist in presentation under penalty of federal criminal law. Tells what laws they are. They are prohibited from disclosing information which may be the basis of a claim. Or, so they can't tell you have a claim, you need to tell them they have a claim, right? Prescribed in these different sections of this chapter, person lacking authority, blah, blah, blah. So they're making it sound like, well, we really can't help you, but that isn't what it says, because you get the B, and it says, the prohibitions against furnishing information and assistance do not apply to the performance of official duty. Any person who indicates a desire to file a claim against the United States will be instructed concerning the procedure to follow. He will be furnished claim forms, and when necessary, will be assisted in completing the forms and assembling the evidence. He will not be assisted in determining what amount to claim in the vicinity of the field exercises, So basically, right, especially if you're a veteran, you got a claim against the government, you're still in the military, JAG has to help you do your claim. That's what I'm saying. So I haven't done this yet, but, I'm reading it now. I say, well, that's what I need to do. I just need to call them and say, hey, you need to do this for me. I have a claim against the United States because it's withholding my pay. The United States exercised this option to keep me in the military. It's in my contract of enlistment that they can keep me in. And the proof that they kept me in, and any other enlisted veteran in, is the simple fact that you don't have an order that shows that you've been separated from the military. I've done many videos on this, and I'm not going to get into it too much now, but the evidence is there. We haven't got it. And the evidence that you're getting paid, but it's not going to you, is this thing called the Military Retirement Fund. And if you Google that and look for the audit from 2018 or whatever audit they show, it usually comes up the first page, you'll see the thing has over $1 trillion in it. But every year, it gets more than enough money to pay all of the retirement pay that has to be paid. And the surplus is going into this account. Well, not only the surplus, but again, I think somebody like me, that I was disability retired without me knowing it, and that money's been going in there. And, I haven't come to claim it, so they get to keep it in the kitty, and they get to invest it in this investment club they have, and, get paid handsome royalties for doing so. And if you look at what it costs to run the fund, it's like $100 billion a year. So there's just something wrong there, I would say, and that's part of all the things I'm complaining about. But for today, it was de facto Governor Whitmer. I'm not judging you. I'm prosecuting you for the United States. Consider yourself served. Okay, now y'all have a good day. See you later.